cruise missile, space shuttle, Titan 4, Minuteman, Peacekeeper, and the Eastern-Western Range data acquisition and processing systems. Having successfully authored and prosecuted numerous patents, Marty's insight and understanding of what's necessary to bring a product to the commercial military market is continually demonstrated via the fielding of these and other key technologies at the System Information Lab. He's leading the System Information Lab projects, including the Vehicle-Based Independent Tracking System, VBITS, and while there's a patent number, you can see it online, and the military-grade small satellites, space-rated battery power systems, vehicle-based independent range system, VPERS, and there's also patent number associated and the grant. And on May 28, 2019, all systems support missile, rocket, hypersonic, satellite, aircraft, and UAV system operations. Mr. Waldman is also a key team member with the small modular nuclear reactor microgrid development for Nevada test and implement. There's a link to it on the website. Please look into it. And he got a bachelor degree, bachelor in science degree from electrical engineering, Northeastern University. He has 34 years of Navy, Air Force, civil service prior to his current private sector service. And his talk today, how to leverage your life experience into starting a business, as give you a different perspective for the career development. So let's welcome Marty for today's exciting talk.
Okay. So this is about aerospace is the field that I identified with at an early age, but it really can be about any field that anybody gets in. The key underlying principle is what inspires you. That's a huge thing. I think a lot of people don't have any key inspiration in their life. So then they kind of don't have much of a focus, and kind of like, looking through a telescope that's not focused, things look blurry. And people live blurry lives, I believe. Not that my life is 100% sharp, but certainly having the initial inspiration and following my heart and my dreams have led to a very clearly defined career path. And it's that key ingredient of finding what really inspires you, and then attracting those experiences that help you build into that more and more. And where does it all head towards? And ultimately, how do you reach out and inspire others, which is kind of what I'm doing on here today. So that's the aim of my presentation today, to give you a little information that will maybe help you in your journey. And again, your journey is going to be totally different than mine, but the underlying principles, I believe, are the same no matter what journey we're on. I think everybody wants to be the best at whatever they do, even if it's not so good. They still want to be the best at it. Yeah. So here on the first page that you can all see, I assume you can see it okay. Just the little things in here, starting very basic. I'm trying to tell my story here as to where my inspiration came from. So maybe you can find similar threads in your life that you can build on. So on the left is a picture of a kid on a bicycle. I was really fortunate to find this photo of me back in 1961 riding a bicycle. And I looked on it and I couldn't believe it. The date was April of '61 when my dad took the picture. And at that point, I didn't have any direction, any idea how my life was going to go. But oddly enough, the month that picture was taken was the month that Yuri Gagarin on April 12th of 61 became the first human being to go into space. And this picture on the cover of Time magazine just to the right. So kind of think about that, because I think about that a lot. How we don't know something's going on in the background, and then it turns out to be a prime motivating force once the cards are kind of shown in your life. Parallel with that, the same guy who took the picture is on the right holding a little airplane. So that's my dad, probably around 1960 something. Don't don't know when offhand. I didn't notice a date on the photo, but as you can see, he's holding a little airplane, and this was a key thing in my life. He was interested and inspired with aviation. After being in the Air Force, he went on to become an aeronautical engineer, and then got connected. He started working with the space program for the Apollo program with fuel cells. And in parallel with that, I didn't know too much what he did, didn't understand it, wouldn't have known what a fuel cell is anyway. But I knew that the space program caught my attention. Didn't know why. From the youngest age, I remember when the initial lunar probes that we launched, the Ranger spacecraft, were launched and hitting the moon. I would set my alarm to wake up at that time of impact. So again, something like deep inside motivated me to be interested, and nobody told me to do that. It was just something I was interested in doing because I found it kind of fascinating at that age, like whatever it was, like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old back in that time. So as that went on, the space program, I was at the perfect age for it. The Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs were all evolving. Early 60s, even when Mercury was still flying, we made a commitment to land the first person on the moon. All three programs were really being developed concurrently. And little did I know or understand that my dad was part of that. So around high school time, I wasn't the best student either. That's another thing. This presentation will emphasize how you don't have to like really be a great student. How I believe that motivation and inspiration are perhaps more important than academics. Now, academics are important, or else you don't find any work, no matter how inspired you are. You're not going to find any kind of work technically in a technology related program such as aviation or space. But anyway, as a motivating tool, my father said, well, if you can like get through high school pretty good, I have a counterpart down at Kennedy Space Center who is working fuel cells for the Saturn V for the Apollo missions, and you can go down and see a launch. So this gave me great motivation for the academic side. I didn't need the motivation for the inspiration side because obviously I had it. And I got to see the Apollo 16 launch, which is that photo right there. And this really accelerated my whole interest and inspiration in space. Very key thing. Again, even in college, this inspired me enough to go into electrical engineering, of which I kind of barely survived, but I got through, engineered my way through it, so to speak. But most importantly, again, it was my drive and inspiration to want to work with the space program someday that pulled me through. So again, I'm trying to emphasize here, this is the key ingredient of my talk today, is how the inspiration and your motivation will help you overcome the way they have that saying, like love conquers all. It's the same thing, love, inspiration, being motivated by something. That's that big X factor, and that will help you overcome all. Interestingly enough, I read astronaut Pete Conrad's book a number of years ago. He was the commander of Apollo 12. He was a captain in the Navy, aircraft carrier, landed aircraft on aircraft carrier at night. So you can imagine the expertise one has to develop for that. He was a very bad student also, so that made me feel better about being a bad student. But he had such a love for the aerospace industry that he engineered his way through it. Also, I believe reading he was dyslexic too. So he had some real issues, but his motivation for aviation in this case, and then eventually for him to become an astronaut, to be the third person to walk on the moon, this was a confirmation of how important inspiration is. So it helped me feel better about my grades, but it also confirmed the importance today about what inspires you. And this is like the title here of my talk, how to leverage your life experience. And your life experience, taking that in a positive light, what are the life experiences that motivate and build your character and move you forward? So we'll get back to this first page, but just on the bottom, I wanted to show how my space career evolved, but we're going to get into the steps in between because certainly I didn't go straight from high school into working on the space shuttle like I did. We'll get into that. But again, to show you the steps of inspiration that brought this about. Kind of condensing from like 1972 to 1982, a short 10 years, a lot of things happened. I ended up at Vandenberg Air Force Base. I heard the space shuttle was coming to Vandenberg. This was perfect because I was on the East Coast. I was in Washington, D.C. Great, terrible for where I wanted to live. And when I heard space shuttle was going to be launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base, that was my ticket out of the East Coast and what I was doing. And that went great until the Challenger exploded, but that evolved into other things. Titan IV then replaced the space shuttle for all the backlog payloads. And kind of out from the space shuttle program, I ended up co-founding this company that will get called Space Information Labs. So kind of connecting the dots here on the first page, it's a condensed version of the kid on the bike when the first man launched into space to me having the privilege of being a co-founder with a company that's doing important things with space now. So we might come back to this first page. I don't know, Ken, but just for reference, but maybe not. But if we can go to the second page now, that'll be good. Does anybody have any questions before we move along, I guess? Okay, very good. All right, so I broke it down. I broke down the whole journey into 15 major steps. Maybe there's 20, maybe there's 10, but for myself, 15 seemed to be the good number. And the first thing we talk about is your motivation. What originally prompted you? Where did the whole thing start? Those are my dogs. I guess they... Shh, quiet. How were you motivated? My charts disappeared. I don't know what to say without my charts. There we go.
Did you see it now?
Okay.
Sorry,
Yep.
sorry.
Good. So the original motivation, where did it come from? It can almost be unconscious and then conscious. Obviously, on April 12th of 1961, that seed of my motivation was starting to poke its little head above the ground. And little did I know at the time. So I kind of go back to that as the origination of what really led into my life and career. So yourself, I don't know if you want to take some notes. Where does your original inspiration, where did it come from? When did it first, your first thing, try to find that, try to identify that. That I find that to be a key thing. And I've worked with other people on this. And once they kind of identify that first thing, the first thing that really motivates them, it lets them then construct the roadmap. It's kind of like, if you don't know where you are, you don't know how to get to where you're going. So you have to have that map. You have to construct that map. And so I call that the original prompt. So anyway, I had mentioned that I started off in Washington, D.C. I was very fortunate to get this excellent job in the Cruise Missile Program Office. And this is another one of those things. I never would have known how to consciously choose it, but the kind of unconscious motivation, inspiration was guiding things behind the scenes. And this became bullet number 2. What have you done already? And even though these programs had nothing to do with going into space, they had a lot in common. And they both use boosters to launch, they use wings to fly, they carried a payload, and they were built by the same typical companies that built the space hardware. So there's a lot in common. And I was able to build the bridge through what I learned, plus working at the program office in DC gave me a great overview that I likely would not have found anywhere else working for a company in a department as an engineer. So this situated me very well. So this became the what have you done already kind of thing that you can leverage into your life's journey for what you're looking to achieve. So the next little picture there where it says September 10th of 81, this is when AIAA entered my life. And this is very significant for this talk. As part of this journey, I knew and I didn't know. I knew something would work out, and I didn't know how. And I wondered, there are organizations out there that were connected into programs other than what I was working. And sure enough, the AIAA was that bridge. Very interesting how that happened. And I was on a cruise missile trip. I was in St. Louis at McDonnell Douglas at the time. And turns out my big boss was speaking on the left. His picture's on the left, Admiral Locke. And the president of McDonnell Douglas, John Yardley, was also speaking. And I was invited to this by someone I worked with. He says, hey, you want to go to this? Your boss is speaking. Sounds interesting. This became the key event because that second speaker, John Yardley, whose picture is just below that, he came from a long history with NASA prior. I believe he was the assistant administrator, did a number of things. He was responsible for designs for the Mercury and Gemini capsules and also the rockets that lifted them. He was very involved with all that and the interfaces. And I wrote him a letter through this AIAA connection, and he invited me to come visit him in his office to mentor me. And did this many times. I actually visited with him about 4 or 5 times. And this is a great example how AIAA is a great connector for mentorship for career, for an aerospace related career. Couldn't have had anyone better to inspire me. So right about that time is when I discovered the space shuttle was going to be launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base. And so I started, per his prompting, making inquiries at Vandenberg. And I started with connecting with the NASA office that was out there, because obviously space shuttles launching from Florida, they had a NASA office, even though it was an Air Force program. And I connected with the guy on the right, Dick Nash. He was the head of the office, and he referred me to the head of the Air Force side for shuttle, and that was Bernie on the left. This picture was taken years later at an event that I had at my house there. And these are the two guys that became the local connection. So again, if you're interested, you're motivated, magic things happen. You get the connections. And then also, so to the right was Space Shuttle launch pad at Vandenberg Air Force Base. And then another picture of it. We got the first vehicle, the Enterprise, in for fit checks. And whether or not y'all remember, everything was going great for Vandenberg until the Challenger blew up in 1986. So, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But the key thing here is building that bridge. You're likely not going to immediately leapfrog into what you have your big dreams about. It's going to be through steps, through connections and people. So along the way, number 3 here, your intentions. What do you want to do? In my case, at that time, it was solely on a career. I was not an entrepreneur by any means at all. But again, we're talking about a life journey. So it doesn't matter. Many people are entrepreneurs that never had a career working for anyone else. And there's a lot of vice versa for that. So big thing is number 4, when do these turning points come into your life, when you see things come into focus? My first one was on September 10th of 1981, oddly enough, and the connections that brought. Probably the second turning point is when there were only 3 civilian jobs for the space shuttle at Vandenberg, and I didn't get the first or second one, but I got the third one. And I had given up my total great career in Washington, D.C. for that. So I'm very fortunate I got that. And that was on February 13th of 82. That was another major turning point. So anyway, so just trying to bring these concepts out for you for what you can look for a roadmap for your life. Okay, next one. Okay, so we'll get into these other bullets here, but I'm going to go through a couple of these little pictures here. Kind of, I mentioned Challenger disaster, and it was a disaster, in 1986. And this put an end to the space program for about 3 years, and it also killed the Vandenberg operation. And as you can imagine, it kind of messed up my life a little bit for my focus and career. I loved the fact I was living out west. That was terrific. And but nothing much looked to be promising for the space program. And then just a couple months after that, I was watching a Titan 34D launch from Vandenberg, watched it blow up right in front of me, the same way the Challenger blew up. The thing was like the ultimate fireworks. And so that, hard to describe, but the state of the space program was very sad at that time. And then like about a month later, I believe it was an Atlas launching from the Cape, and they launched it into bad weather. And the wind shear ripped it apart on its way up to orbit. So we had 3 spectacular public failures of the space program in 1986. Very bad for morale. So anyway, I kind of, that's when I started becoming an entrepreneur because I was thinking, I don't know, it was really great that I got to the shuttle program. I got to experience a number of wonderful things. Got to spend like 3 months in Florida working with training with what was to be our orbiter, which was the Discovery. I got to be in it when they closed the payload bay doors for the first time, and then I got to be in it when they powered it up on the launch pad for the first time. Terrific memories, great things, but it all came to an end. And at this time, my entrepreneur wheels started turning like, what else can I do? And I started reading books about being an entrepreneur. So again, I kind of felt like I had achieved the space program dream already. And now I need to, the entrepreneurial seeds started sprouting in my mind. Like, might not work in space anymore, but I'd sure like to do something else that motivates me. And at that time, very long story, I'm just going to go into the tip of the iceberg here. I invented this little aquarium that you see, Creative View. And this was patentable because there had never been an aquarium that instantly you could hang on the wall or put on a table. There were actually aquariums in the 1800s that were built for being on the wall. And then there were the standard aquariums that sat on a table, but none had ever the capability to go from one surface to the other, a horizontal to a vertical surface. So this was patentable, and I had to learn how to write patents because I wanted to patent this, and I didn't have $15,000 to pay someone to do it. So I really dug into this, and this kind of became my second day job, so to speak. And I learned all about this, actually got a patent on it, and actually found someone to work with for manufacturing it. And it ended up, I was in Colorado and I was in Florida, my two travel places I still go to because I was with the Titan 4 program. And I went to pet stores and they had them in there. So I actually bought one and paid $10 or whatever it was at the time. So that was really cool. So I felt connected into the consumer products kind of thing. But the more important thing was the experience I got in doing this, and namely the patents, the ability to write a patent. And right about 1988, let's go to our bullet here. What new alliances will you have? Key people in your life, unlikely to do it alone. I was still into the space program, but from a different way. I was working with some people at Vandenberg Air Force Base prior to the Challenger exploding through an AIAA project, of all things, to fly student experiments in the Getaway Special program. And then when the Challenger exploded, that team disbanded. And in 1988, I met who's to become a lifelong friend right till today, who's our president and founder of our company, Edmund Burke. And Edmund had a lot of dreams of his own. He was a civil servant at the time, but we really clicked. And this was also when GPS was beginning. And he had a lot of visions about applications for GPS, and namely one of those being to someday when we launch rockets, that we won't need radar to track them because we can put a little GPS box on a rocket. So this is, and that concept evolved. That wasn't instant. Through a lot of talk and collaboration and all that, that evolved. So anyway, that's a picture with Edmund, and make a long story short on that, that Getaway Special with, I believe, 15 Central Coast of California students experiments successfully flew on Space Shuttle STS-57, the Endeavour. And that was in 1993. And basically Edmund, with his technical skills and the team of engineers from Vandenberg who wanted to outreach to the community, worked with the students, and we pulled this off. This was a terrific thing, but this started building my dreams back into what can I do with the space program post space shuttle. The space shuttle was not coming to Vandenberg. And I also have another thing on here. We'll a quick little thing, but anyway, all these years later, I end up in Nevada, and kind of in a similar way, Nevada had just won a competition with all the states. There were like 6, I forget now, maybe 5 or 6 states chosen to be UAV test sites, and Nevada had one. And we'll get into that, but that opened up a whole new world of which I evolved to in Nevada, where I am now. So bullet number 6 here, balancing enthusiasm against reality. You can plainly see that by noting the space shuttle having had its disaster and ending the Vandenberg operation, had a lot of enthusiasm, and then had to deal with the reality of that. And again, that's where my entrepreneurial seed started sprouting. That's how I dealt with that. What can I do on my own? And then met these other people and this payload for students, and this opened up many doors. Getting to your first lucky break, kind of had a lot of them, and I look at lucky breaks as kind of when people come to you kind of seemingly out of the ethers that share parts of your dream, and you form alliances with them, which gets to the second one on number 5, just above, unlikely to do it alone. Even with the aquarium, I needed to work with a marketing company, a manufacturer, so I wasn't going to be doing that alone, although I had a lot invested in it. But still, it takes the expertise of other people and coordination and working with other people. Very important. So the lucky breaks, many of them come along. Probably with each of these endeavors, each one had a first lucky break. But have you, with what you're doing, what do you feel your lucky break has been? And I don't believe in the concept of luck, so to speak. I kind of look at it like that's the turning point when things happen, because there's like so much energy behind something that the next stage of it has to begin. And so this is very interesting. Number 8, say building on previous, maybe forgotten efforts previously accomplished. So what I learned for writing the patent for my little aquarium, Edmund immediately recognized that as being a valuable asset at some point in the future. And he couldn't put his finger on it, but he made comments like, someday you can maybe use those skills for some kind of products we might develop. His thoughts totally came true. I've now written probably about 6 patents for our company. And I have a great 6 out of 6 record. We have won every one of them. But this is interesting because after that first one, this is like before computers. This was, I had a word processor, but very labor intensive for writing. Now, if I'm writing a patent, I did one in a week not too long ago, because you can take and copy paste and lots of great things on your computer. Back then, it took about 4 or 5 months and lots of scissors and cutting out things and rearranging them and taping them together to come up with the body for that patent. So great enabling tool, that computer that we have, I tell you. But this is an example of 8 where I put in a lot of effort into something I really didn't ever want to do again. But that's an ongoing thing now. I'm always in a patent writing mode and like, is this something we need to write a patent on? And if so, I can pretty much do it pretty well. I know what to look for and what to do. So this is really important. You put a lot of work into something and then think you're not going to use it again, save those files. probably don't ever think you're not going to use it again. It's likely a training ground for you to apply at some point in the future with something else if you continue on your life journey. Okay, you can go to the next. Does anyone have any interim questions? Okay, ready for the next chart? Okay, so obviously, when I met Edmund, that was a key event in my life. It was like, I think it was uh, later part of 1988. I don't know, I might have the date somewhere. But I kind of parallel that. You all know the Beatles, Lennon, McCartney, they worked together in a very special, synergistic way. You look at the work they did, it's like if you find that kind of person to work with in your life, you're very fortunate. And I look at like everything that we've done and the way the company's evolved as an extension of that. And that synergy, very important. And again, we don't have to go back to that chart, but it's where I said it's unlikely you're going to do it by yourself. You're going to need that synergy. Other person or other people that are in on your project. Very important. Number 10, we'll get into the pictures in a second, but you have to have patience, perseverance, optimism, and really important is accepting success. Oddly enough, kind of some people, I believe, have a form of a death wish when it comes to success. They just can't see themselves having success in their life for whatever reason. And that's a very important thing. It's like, how are you maybe holding yourself back? What are you envisioning or picturing that isn't as constructive as it can be? So it's another thing to ask yourself about kind of in your examination. Your attitudes and how you feel play a very important thing. What are you expecting? Sometimes I'll wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and I'll have ideas and expectations about things. And it's like I write them down and they sometimes become very key things that move things forward. Like I'm 66 now, will be 67 soon, but I feel like I'm in high school still. And I have my whole world and life ahead of me for what I can do and accomplish and the people that I'll meet. So very important. The attitude is so important. Can't stress that enough. Okay, so kind of to summarize what happened with Edmund and myself, the original team of people, we worked with these students to fly their experiments in space shuttle Endeavour. That morphed into the founding of our company. These people were great engineers and wanted to be involved. Years later, Edmund and I are the only 2 originals left from that group, but new people came into it. People come and go. They might not share your vision for an entire life, but they might come in and share your vision for a specific, very important period of time. And so right now, our company, I started in 04, I believe, 04, so 16 years. We're at about 15 people now. Small company with a big capability. Our initial thing that made a big difference was we were selected initially by the California Space Authority for our design for a GPS-based tracking unit. And if you recall, that's what I mentioned about Edmund with his original vision. And we got money from the state that jump-started us to build a prototype version of what then evolved. There's a lot of stuff in between, but what evolved into that first picture that you see on the right, this became the tracking system for all Atlas and Delta rockets under the United Launch Alliance. for their tracking system so they could transition out of radar-based tracking. And this is called VBITS, Vehicle-Based Independent Tracking System, VBITS. This was a huge thing. You can see pictures of the Atlas and Delta rockets below. The original unit had a battery inside of it, totally self-contained because of that I in VBITS, vehicle-based independent. So we met that with power too. Edmund is a great power systems engineer, in addition to being a great engineer in many other ways. And we realized we had another product splitting out the battery. And we've now become, I believe, the world's leader in lithium ion power systems, and in particular, the battery management system that's inside the box. And we were very fortunate to be selected for all missile defense missions, of which is expanding. So, so out of that original concept, again, because of the motivation, vision, keeping on moving forward, the concepts grew into hardware. There was a path that it's like you're driving in a fog. You know the road is there. The fog is kind of obscuring the long end of the view, but you just keep your car between the lines for where you are, and you have faith, and you keep driving. And these two products became the cornerstones of our company. And was also split up into other things. With the tracking box, we also pioneered autonomous flight termination system. It's in our first patent, actually. And this basically, it's very simple. If the rocket knows where it is, the rocket knows where it shouldn't be. So if it's going off course, it then has the information that it's off course, and then it blows itself up. Instead of needing all the ground command destruct stations for destroying the rocket. So we get to eliminate millions and millions of dollars of ground hardware that isn't necessary anymore. It all goes from ground-based to vehicle-based. Very important. So, so I look at that as like number 11. It's like it's been a chain reaction in our company where things really started accelerating and got into one program, another program. We just won this other thing for our battery, and that's has new customers involved. It's a lot of opportunity to evolve from the traditional silver zinc batteries into our battery. So we're pursuing every angle of that. Oddly enough, with all this, everybody stays home, no more trade shows. Initially, that messed us up a little bit, but things have matured greatly with online. And actually, we've been to a number of conferences online now where leadership has participated. We've had opportunities to present that we probably wouldn't have had if the shows were physical. So there's a lot of advantage with this virtual stuff, which probably many of you are discovering. So this is kind of a new day for how we're going to do business. So that's like another thing that never would have counted on this, but it opened up new doors. Along with that, number 12, new levels of understanding. You're always personally growing and understanding more, becoming more of a database of information where you can plan, be proactive and plan and envision and grow whatever it is you're doing. So, okay, next one, please. Okay, so yeah, so number 13 is a really big one. Expanding your circle of influence, creating new opportunities. In 2009, I moved to Las Vegas, and this is not the place to go for technology or aerospace. It's a great place to come to. Well, I shouldn't say for technology. There's a ton of technology on the strip, obviously, wiring in all the whatever, machines that people gamble on. Huge technical infrastructure, but it's of its own world. It's not aerospace related. So myself and some other folks had this vision to tie in Las Vegas into Southern California aerospace, mainly because I was here and I understood what goes on at Vandenberg, LA, San Diego, and then I was in Las Vegas, and there are other people that saw that vision too. And also I ended up meeting some people from Nellis. Nellis Air Force Base has a very large but very, very quiet, compartmented aerospace influence here. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is there's people here that are interested in it. You just will typically not meet them, opposed to Vandenberg, where they're out in the community a whole lot more. And then, like I mentioned previously, the Nevada won the selection to be a drone testing state. So these people previously hidden kind of came out of the woodwork, and I started meeting people here in Las Vegas that, to make a huge difference with. And that was for applying our tracking technology to drones. And we had a number of proposals with that. Things didn't work out with that here in Nevada. And actually, Nevada kind of didn't do, it had bad leadership, let's put it that way. It never really became what it could have become. I feel technically it was held back by politics and losing money into projects that could have been spent better for bettering the testing capabilities here in Nevada. That's a whole long story, but the good side of that was I met a number of great people that remain professional connections and I work with through today. One of them in that photo, it's an interesting photo. The guy in the red tie on the left with me in the blue shirt is Steve Curtis, and he opened up the door here with the drone testing for me. He's an entrepreneur like myself in his own world. He comes from a nuclear background, but he saw the drone capability for here. So he got involved. And then my friend Bernie from Vandenberg, who got me connected to the shuttle program. So I got to get in a picture with both of these guys. These are like two of my mentors, the one from Shuttle in California and the other from what led into the whole nuclear effort here in Nevada. And this is a very big thing that we're working hard for. Look on the bottom left, micro, small modular reactors and microgrids. Nevada has an opportunity for greatness again, and we're going to make sure it takes it this time because new concept, something like the size of a motorhome, is a small modular nuclear reactor. You might not have heard about that. But these things, one of those, say about motorhome size, could probably power all of Lompoc or El Segundo, 30, 50,000 houses locally and businesses with one of these small modular reactors. And they're modular, so you can connect them together. And this thing's evolving in a very great way. Department of Energy, there's a consortium that's been selected to develop the first ones in the US here by around 2023, 24. So about 3 to 4 years from now, maybe less. And I'm working real hard with the team, number of people besides Steve, to get that testing to occur at Creech Air Force Base to power Creech, because that's where all the drone missions are flown from. And if Creech loses power, then they have to go on diesel generators. You have to ask yourself the question, what if they're without power for a week? Well, they're not going to be able to fly drone missions. These small modular reactors, you fuel them once and they're good for about 25 years putting up continuous power. That in combination with microgrids makes our power generation distribution system totally robust. There's no more large grid for the US. The big question, what happens if the grid goes down? there will be no more the grid. It'll all be tens of thousands of small microgrids, each powered by their own local small nuclear power. And think of it as a big battery. And these things are becoming a reality, and they're going to be tested out with the military first. And I envision 20 to 30 years from now, they're going to be incrementally taking over from power distribution and generation as we know it. And everything will be buried underground, very resilient. You're not going to lose power anymore. This is a very exciting thing, and we've pioneered that here in Nevada. So look for that to evolve. But anyway, this is what I'm talking about in 13 and 14, new opportunities, your credibility, who you work with. It is very good to be part of a visionary group of people that wants to accomplish a similar thing that can make a difference and give back to others. And that's the vision here. Along with that, down the bottom right, big enabling tool of that, in parallel, I got to be the founder for the first NDIA chapter here in Las Vegas. That wouldn't have happened if I had not been the AIAA chapter chair here, because that work and credibility enabled me to move into proposing to NDIA headquarters that we start a chapter here. So you got to keep building on this stuff. And then our chapter's just done great things, opened up doors into Creech and Nellis I never would have been connected with before. So yeah, just other things on here. I put Endeavor Institute on here. It's kind of going back. That ties in with number 15. Endeavor, that was the space shuttle orbiter that we flew the student experiments on back in 1983. And then our response to that was, it's like, yeah, we could do another payload, but man, that was a lot of work. So instead, we decided to have an educational STEM outreach center instead. And that's what we did. And we worked with, for about 15 years, we had thousands of students come through our facility. We had camps in the summer, inspiring them all about space and science. So, so that's very important. Again, it's like, how are you going to give back? How are you going to be connected? Then just that little graphic above NDIA on the right, this little space-based range thing, of which, getting back to my company, we're very involved with that. We made a derivative of the vehicle-based independent tracking system, and it's called the vehicle-based independent range system. So basically, it takes all assets that were on the ground and it all becomes space-based. So again, building on these concepts, constantly building and building and building. And that's like a key message. My inspiration, motivation, all remains the same since the beginning. Nothing has changed with that. Like I mentioned, it's like every day is like it's starting again fresh. Nothing has got old here, and things that you haven't done for a few years suddenly come to light. You apply those learned skills to it. So this is a journey, kind of summarizing it, that is well worth taking. It's going to take a lot of your time. You can work a standard job and come home and have that life. And if that fulfills you, that's what's important. It all depends on what fulfills you and in accordance with your vision. What do you want to do with your life? Do you want to, at the end, say, I could have done something else. I wish I had pursued that dream. Or now's the time. Now's the time to get involved with that and see how far you can take it. And even if you don't take it kind of, a lifetime of application like I've done here, doesn't matter. It's like you experienced it and then you found out where your balance point is in your life. So anyway, so those are my 15 major steps as I see it. And I think I've run out of things to say. And if you have any questions or whatever, my wishes is that this helps you on your journey and helps you leverage your life journey into whatever it is you feel your mission is. So, and you'll find help on the way.
Yeah, this is truly amazing. Very inspiring talk. Give people alternative to think about this for their career, starting a business, and what they really want to do. So, if any question, please, you are welcome to just unmute yourself.
Ken, can I ask a question? Ian Howarth here. Marty, thank you for that. That was great. I really enjoyed listening to you. And okay, start my video. And so it really was. And I speak as someone who's trying to set up a couple of businesses at the moment and with varying successes. How much? And I noticed you didn't really talk much about money, but you've got to make some money right out of this as well. And how much? How much does that have to motivate you? Do you think, or is that the least important thing?
So I don't know if I heard the whole thing, but I think you said how much was money a motivator?
Yeah.
As a motivating force?
Yeah.
So initially, it was a huge motivator because I was working I look back in retrospect and I didn't realize how fortunate I was to have that job with the Navy and then the Air Force because it was a steady paycheck coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I had to at least equal that with my little aquarium if I was ever going to go into the entrepreneurial business, right? To be able to leave, my whole thing was to be able to make a transition out of what I was doing with equal pay. And then, so the big question mark is, but do I have equal assurance that that is going to carry on? So, and probably the big answer to that is no, it wasn't, because there's still aquariums now, but what happened? Like so many things, you can have an aquarium on your phone now and watch the fish swim around, right?
Right.
So whoever could have foreseen that? And not as many people are as inclined to deal with the logistics of an aquarium and be in the whole pet industry and all that stuff, which is a huge deviation from my dream. But money was a big motivator. It's like, wow, well, if I can make a few $1 million from this, then that's equal what a career is going to bring me. So, but I'm pretty fortunate that it didn't turn out that way, that I pretty much maybe broke even, but I came up with, there's a lot of things I didn't bring up. I've come up with other products that have their own sales. I even have written a book, all good things. But the key thing was the alliance that I built with Edmund in starting our company. And the company obviously has had to sustain itself and have enough money for employees and all that. I function actually as a consultant. I'm not there in Santa Maria, I'm here in Las Vegas. So my focus is on business development and intellectual property. So thank God I went through and I completed my career. So I have that income coming in through my retirement. And that keeps the lights on. That keeps me going. And anything I do above that is a bonus. Am I still thinking or needing or wanting, the giant jackpot, the money motivation? That's motivating me because I'm just having a great life now with the way things are. But that, of course, that's in my mind, but that's not what's motivating me. What's motivating me still is the making a difference, making a huge difference in the space program, of which our company has done. So it's kind of a tricky question you ask, because of course money is a motivation, but it's like anything. It's like the money it's a transition. It's your energy. It's like like the fuel in your gas tank. You got the nicest car in the world, but if you don't have money for gas anymore because you paid so much for the car, the car's just gonna be stuck in the middle of the desert or in your driveway or something.
Yeah,
So
no, that's a great answer. Thank you again for the talk, because I really enjoyed it. It was very, very interesting, and lot of great advice there.
So let me just caveat that I have friends where the money is the big thing, and they're very good at making millions and millions and millions of dollars. And maybe a metaphor for that is people that buy and flip houses, right? It's like the market's good, they're going to make a ton of money, and they don't care about the houses. The houses are a tool. But I'm more of a long range person wanting to make a difference. I'm not like in the space program to flip GPS tracking units or whatever. It's like I'm looking to improve the industry, and it's exciting to be part of that momentum. That's a real great thing. Like when we just had this competition and we won two. There were like 800 submittals, and we were chosen. They only ended up with 30 out of the 800. And we won 2 of them, and that's like terrific. And it's not because we won, but it's because it showed that our technology is very respected and people want it. So that's the real reward here. So we can feel, I can make a bold statement like we have, I feel, the best battery in the world. And that's, you can't put a price on that. That's terrific. And the customers will come and are coming because of that. So it's like that, not to quote God stuff, but it's like I say, you put God first and everything follows. It's kind of like that. You put your motivation first, your passion, your interest, and then the money and those other things follow. And it's fulfilling. I don't know how fulfilled the people that are flipping houses are. Maybe they're very fulfilled. I don't know. So
I doubt
anyway.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it needs to make a systemic, long-term impact and betterment for the aerospace industry.
Yeah, that's great. So any question, Alan, Karen?